Hello, I'm Dr. Kelly Palfy, and I have with me today Leo Petrilli. Leo is simply an amazing person. He is an amazing advocate for trauma victims, an amazing advocate for substance abusers, and he's an advocate for adult male survivors of sexual abuse as well. So Leo, thank you for joining me today. You are a true hero to me, and you've come a long way in your journey, and you are now helping others. Not only are you helping others, you're helping other people help others. So that is so amazing. So thank you. With your permission, I'd like to give just a very brief history of sort of a little bit of your journey. There will not be any graphic details showed or discussed in this session, and that's for you and your listeners. So you are a retired Canada Border Services agent. You became a Border Services agent at age 21. You were violently sexually assaulted at the age of 8 outside of your home. 2 men attacked you and raped you and left you for dead. And the thought of that absolutely breaks my heart. Plus, you experienced non-sexual abuse in the home in the form of neglect and verbal and emotional abuse. So you told me that we've spoke previously, and you told me that you began drinking at about age 8. You began drinking alcohol. That's pretty common amongst abuse victims. They're often introduced to alcohol by their perpetrators. However, I don't think this was the case for you. So you found alcohol on your own. You're now an addictions recovery coach, you lead group, you speak, and you're still doing your own work. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey, about how you gained access to alcohol, and whatever you want to share is wonderful.
First of all, thank you for the honor of let me share my journey. Something happened a long time ago to me that it's stuck with me for forever, and I don't think I've ever really gotten over it. Even at this point, I don't think I've really gotten over it. About 5 or 6 years ago, I started having these dreams where I was in a fight with somebody and I was biting their arm, and I'd wake up and I'd be like tasting blood in my mouth. And because I thought I bit my tongue, and I went to a conference as I said, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I was doing a presentation, and the person that was talking with me is a psychologist, and I told him about this, and he said, asked him, like, what's going on? And he said, listen, I have a buddy here. He goes, I'm your friend. I don't want to talk to you about this, but let this guy talk to you about it. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. And he turned out to be a hypnotherapist.
Okay.
And I'm somebody who, like, do you remember in university you would go to an event or something like that? They'd have a hypnotist on stage and he'd get them all to like fade out and that's me. So I'm susceptible to it. So
okay. Yeah.
I met this guy. He was from Florida, Dr. Rob. It began with an A and a long name. I don't remember his name. And he started to do some work with me, and he said, can you come back and talk to me tomorrow? It was a 2-day conference. And I said, yeah, sure. So the next day I go talk to him. And when he left, he says, do you have a therapist back home? I said, I have a therapist, but I don't have a hypnotherapist. He goes, I don't think you need a hypnotherapist. He says, but you're going to need a therapist because stuff is going to start to come back to you and you're going to start to remember. So I had gone to work a couple of years ago now. I'd gone to work, and everything, when I got hurt by those two men, came back in this dream. And it turns out it wasn't just fighting me. I was getting sexually assaulted by these two guys. Mm. And so with all that comes, inner hatred, anxiety, depression, fear, stress. And I used to say, that I was angry all the time. I'm angry all the time, when on my job, like I'm not a tough guy, but I'd always be front and center when something happened. And if somebody had a beef or there was going to be a confrontation, I always did my best to make sure that it was me. And I used to say to, members of the public, you have to hit me first. and it's not the way to do it, but that's how I did it. So I was always angry. I was always angry. Now that I look at it and I've had a chance to examine I'm afraid of everything, and nothing comes near me, because I will smash you down. That's it. And I had to kind of, I guess, make sure that didn't happen to nobody else either. So I got a job. I got the job at the border.
So
it was a great.
Leo, can I just ask, prior to this time with that psychotherapist, you didn't remember your abuse?
It went away. It only came back about 5 or 6 years ago.
That's very common.
So getting to when I got home, which was already a hurricane most days. I'm an Italian. My father would make his homemade wine. I was able to go into the cantina there, and there was a hose, and I could drink what I want. And alcohol made me forget everything, and it was powerful. It just took everything away.
So you started drinking at around age 8 to forget what had happened to you.
I think so. Not long after that. Yeah. Not long after that. So by the time I progressed into high school, into like when I was 16 or whatever, and I'd sleep at friends' house for the weekend, and I'd just get blasted for the weekend. Oh, I had a beard and a mustache when I was 14. So the age majority is 18 back then, so it was pretty easy to it was pretty easy for me to get booze. And my booze, it never lied to me. My whole life it never lied to me. It did, in reality it did, but while I was drinking and using it, it didn't. It said, I'm going to take all this stuff away, and what I want from you is everything. Your happiness, your peace, your freedom. I want it all. And I said, okay, and I raged and raged and raged. So I get this job at 21. I'm full of fear and self-hate and booze, and I haven't dealt with any of it. And I get a job on the border. And when you come back to Canada, I'm the first badge you see. And I worked at the Windsor Tunnel right across from Detroit, Michigan, which for a long time was a murder capital of the world. So for 50 cents, you could take a bus to Canada on midnights. And I would work midnights because I'm the first thing you see when you get off that bus.
Wow.
And of course, with my booze in and everything else, I got in trouble, which I deserved at work. And, work was great with me right throughout. Like, they were so supportive, and both men. I can't say enough good thing about Canada Border Service. I cannot say enough good things about them. Even to this day, I can't say enough about them. They're great. So to the folks that are listening, man, if your agency, whatever, listen, if you're in trouble with stuff, if you've got booze going on or pills, that's got to go, man. That's got to go, because that's going to affect everybody, and that's going to take it on for a long time. That's going to just take everything that it can. And being in an association, being in a union, this is a disability in law, in labor law, the Canada labor law. This is a disability, just like under the Human Rights Act. It's a disability. You can't terminate somebody because they got hurt. You know what I mean? You can't terminate them at that point. With this, you go to a program and you get well, and you help others, and to this day, being an advocate for others empowers me to be an advocate for myself. Nice. That was a long-winded answer.
No, it's beautiful.
I hope I was able to help out.
That was good. I'm gonna dig in a few places there. So if I heard you correctly, basically what you said was you didn't have memories of the actual abuse, but yet you were drawn to become this law enforcement officer. And you told me this when we kind of spoke on the phone last time. You said basically it was never going to happen to anybody else, right? So even though you weren't conscious of your abuse at that time, you had this guttural instinct, if you will, to protect.
Plus at home too, there was stuff at home with she's got her issues too, and now I love her. This day I love her, but she had her issues too, and when things happen to us as kids, you go from 5 to 25 right away. You don't get to be 6, 7, 8. And when you throw in booze and whatever on top of that, your decision making abilities are limited. Decision making, we're limited.
Leo, how common do you think that is, that children who are victimized either sexually or physically, or even just not just emotionally, but even emotionally, how common do you think that is, that they will go into a career like policing or like law enforcement?
Extremely. I can't speak for others, and I wouldn't do that, but most of us, some of us, not most, become this because you hide behind that shield, and nothing else, and I'm going to help out anybody I can. So when I do see something going on, I'm going to do something about that. I wasn't able to do anything about mine too much, my issue, my day, my event, but I can do something to maybe help some others. So I think that's really common to firemen too. I think nurses too. Like a lot of us that this happens to, we become coaches, we become counselors, because it helps keep ourselves whole, and helps us not have to always be. One of the things that has been so beneficial to me is an ability, and usually I'm crying and sobbing at this point, but I'm not, because I'm not a prisoner to my past, and I know that I'm safe today. And sometimes, like with addiction, they say 5% is the substance and 95% is what's going on, and that's absolutely the truth. That's so much the truth.
5% is the substance and 95% is the reason you're using it.
Is the anxiety, the depression, and all that stuff. You take the heart and the head, eh? This is only a foot, but for people like me, it's a mile. It's a mile, and when this is closed, nothing gets in there. This stops talking. This doesn't know what to do. So in the recovery circles that I go with, when I talk to therapists and counselors, and that sometimes I say to them, okay, where's addiction, man? Where's addiction? Is it in the head or is it in the heart? And they all say it's in the head. And to me, it's not, because this can't tell this how to feel, but this can tell this how to think. So to me, it's in here. To me, it's in here,
Well, it can, I think the heart is the place that we build the walls, right? And I would, you said you won't speak for others, but as you know, I'm a retired RCMP officer, and a big part of why I went into law enforcement was the power, the protection, wanting to feel heard, wanting to be safe, wanting to be a part of a safe, healthy family, right?
And having others there that I know that if it goes south, I can call and they'll be there. They'll be there to help out, and on the job, don't forget, it teaches you how to fight and everything, right? Which enhances your own skills, your own beliefs more rather than skills, and
empowers you.
To the credit of Canada Border Services, I failed my gun psych twice, and they were right not to get me a firearm. They were right to do that.
Yeah.
I used to joke, especially with a psychologist. I would say to them, you know what? I don't need a gun because I got Smith & Wesson right here. Oh, that's probably not going to go over well.
I know what you're saying, though. You had so much anger, right? And even though you didn't know why that anger existed, your body remembers. Your body remembers the violation. Your body remembers the betrayal. Your body remembers the fear, all those things. And like I said, we're not going to go into that. But, your guttural instinct was to become a protector. And, and Leo, when we were talking just before we started this Zoom recording, you were telling me about a situation even when you applied for the police department, and you had already that incredible love backup from a potential fellow officer. Do you want to share that story or no?
This is. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't apply to be a police officer until I was 38 years old.
Okay.
And there was a buddy of mine. We applied for this to the same city, and he's like 27, 28, but he's built like a brick shipyard. He's just really, and a gentle soul, eh? So back then, it was a long time ago. Part of the physical was you had to run a 2-minute mile before 10 and a half minutes. Whatever, you have to get in under 10 and a half minutes. And I'm a fat, overweight Italian guy with flat feet, so I run like a duck. Okay, so we're a good, I don't know, I'm going to say 7 minutes into this run, and I'm starting to gas. So I said to my friend, "Listen, man, go get you." He goes, "No, I'm going to stay with you." I said, "You can't do that. You can't do that. Go get your badge, man. Go." And so he went, and he came back and he got me.
Finished, and then he came back for you.
He came back to get me, and he ran with me. And I was able to finish at like 10:15 or whatever. I got under the wire, and I was able to the love of that was amazing to me.
But that is part of also why we become law enforcement, right? Because that is also part of the draw, right? Like that loyalty, that camaraderie, that willing to throw your own life on the line, right? I mean, it was a run. He wasn't throwing his life on the line, but he came back to make sure his brother finished. And that's the heart of all first responders, I think,
I agree. Think if you're a doctor or a nurse and you're working in an ICU and you've got all this madness and someone's just going to pass, and you have to do everything you have to do, or you're a fireman or a firewoman, and you're walking into it knowing all this is going on, and you got people that are going to back you up, and you're probably going to you might die, and or you're at work, and you're on the job and something's going on, and somebody draws something on you, or just you the protection, the togetherness. I hate to use the word teamwork. It's more than that. It's like it's instinctual nature to protect each other. It's very much herd mentality that we have to protect each other, and being able to trust somebody, especially for somebody. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. Being able to trust others. It's a wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful feeling, and not just in good times. The message of this broadcast, the best thing is that when you got stuff going on, there's ways to take care of it. And for the decision makers, if any of them are listening, EAP and peer support is huge, because peer support, this is what peer support means. Peer means me too.
Yeah.
And support means you can trust me. Yeah. That's what peer support is,
So Leo, that is sort of what I want to dig into a little bit more. And yes, I would agree with that. I saw it in my own career. I was not addicted to alcohol. My addiction would have been exercise. That's how I dealt with my frustrations and anger and hurt. But I would like to know, just like, and I was going to say, I agree with the support that is available and how alcohol is recognized as, an illness, you're not thrown under the bus just because you go for support. At least not in my experience in yours. Leo, what I want to ask you more about is, not the details of your abuse, but just how much it impacted your life. Like, specifically the alcohol which you used to cope. And that was like, I wrote the book Men Too, Unspoken Truths About Male Sexual Abuse. That was also the experience of some of my participants who were part of the research that formed the basis of this book. Was they said they used alcohol, and that alcohol actually helped them successfully bury their memories. So that's your experience as well. But like when we spoke last time, you talked about just the fact, tell a story about why you didn't do many impaired operation investigations, for example.
I'm gonna touch on two things, because I just thought of something else too, as well. Okay. Sure. At the border, we can arrest for impaired driving. Like Mr. Herb Gray was Deputy Prime Minister of Canada at the time, and I went into his office and said, "You got to change the law, man. You got to change the law, because we're the first badge they see, and if we let them go and they're drunk, we've we're complicit in that. And it kind of worked out, but I would never have somebody blow before I would arrest them, because back then, you as the arresting officer, you had to blow into it first, and you had to be able to show zeros. And because if I was drunk the night before, and that kind of wasn't going to happen,
There would
so
be no zero.
there'd be nothing. So I went straight impaired all the time.
Right.
And if the judge would say why, I could say because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this.
Right.
So I would never.
Yeah.
I would never.
That just like, as someone who's hired or his entire career is based on law enforcement, right? Like, and I think you also shared with me just the fact that like you said, it would not be zero because you'd still be registering what you drank from the night before.
Oh yeah. I'm a career alcoholic. I used to go, if I would work days, I'd get home at 6 o'clock. I'd get home at 6 o'clock at night, and I'd get right into a 40 of usually vodka, but at least a 40, at least. Kill that. I'd get up the next day early, get to the gym, get on the treadmill, a couple of hours, just burning it off, because I got to get the smell off me before I put the uniform on and go to work, right?
Wow.
I'd get to work, and I'd be there, and people would say, "Oh man, you look so tired. You look so tired." And I'm like, "Oh, I went to the gym. I went to the gym this morning. I was always going to the gym." And as you're walking around, you go into different rooms, and that people would say, "Hey, Leo, went to the gym, eh? Hey, Leo, went to the gym, eh?" And I knew I was getting away with it. And I never drank publicly. I did early in my career, but I was always just get 100% wrecked. And I made sure that whenever a function was going on, I would only be drinking water at that function. The second I got home was the second I got into my booze. Wow. The addiction is really isolating. It wants you alone with it. It wants you alone with all your negative beliefs and inner turmoil. It's really smart that way. And so if I could address this too, I know you haven't answered it yet, but I think it's important. Retirement is really hard for people in our line of work. It's really hard, even if you go out on all your great terms. And I went out, when I retired in 2018, my agency was wonderful. I went out financially sound, mentally, everything was good. But I still felt like I wasn't part of the team. Mm-hmm. I still felt like I wasn't part of the team. And before this broadcast, Chicago police officer today, a 47-year-old male with 25 years on the job, he retired, and they found him suicide today. So this happens because maybe he's got stuff going on in his youth that he wasn't able to deal with, like me, hide behind the badge, do a good job, but now that's gone. Mm-hmm. And they're left to deal with what they haven't dealt with in the past.
Leo, what would you say to someone, for example, if they were aware that they either had excessive anger, or perhaps if they were aware that they, were sexually abused? What would you say to that person?
It's going to show up. Kind of don't wait. It's more therapeutic when it comes, and you have to deal with it when it comes. The sexual abuse part, it was almost a surprise to me, and I've only been dealing with it for, like I said, the last 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. The other stuff that went on at home, that wasn't a surprise, and the boozing absolutely wasn't a surprise. Addiction becomes it's instinctual. It becomes part of you do it without breathing, right? Getting ahead of it however you can. If you get a therapist that you can trust, that's so valuable to you. And there's some really good therapists, like there's some really good cops and firemen and first responders, and there's some really bad therapists, just like there's some really bad first responders, but most are there for all the right reasons. So put your hand up. If you're in trouble, put your hand up, Mm-hmm. I'll talk to anybody if they want to get a hold of me. I got no agenda to hurt you. I don't know you. Mm-hmm. I don't know you, So if someone wanted to get a hold of me, you've got my contact information there. Please give it out to folks. I might be able to kind of help out with something. And I do have, because I got in so much trouble at work, I do have a pretty extensive union background, You get in enough trouble. You have a healthy respect for HR, and I do.
Right. Well, and Leo, you said you weren't just in trouble at work, at home as well. If it's okay to share, you told me that your wife gave you the choice of either her and the kids or alcohol, and you said, "Wow, I'm going to miss you."
She was a really a nice lady, and I wrecked her. I broke the deal. I broke the deal. Even with my kids, I broke that deal too. She found my stash several times and finally said, I can't do this anymore. It's either me and the kids or you're drinking. And I said, you know what, you take everything. Because I did not love myself. I'm still working on that, eh? So if I don't love me, how am I going to love you? It's probably not gonna happen. Uh, um, I regret hurting, or I really regret hurting my kids, and that's kind of one of my main platforms that keeps me okay. That keeps me okay. It doesn't come all the time, and sobriety is 100% possible.
Mm-hmm.
Look in my eyes. It can be done. It can be done.
Nice. Yeah. Congratulations.
It's not me. It's my higher power has a plan right now. I'm on a spiritual journey. Meeting you, being able to talk in these venues is just, I don't know. It's just part of it. It's just part of it. Part of it. It's a very interesting ride right now. Therapeutic.
Yeah. And Leo, I'll just share with you and with our listeners, I was a police officer too. I lost my career to bullying, and, I was pretty devastated, and I'm very grateful that I had my master's degree already started when my career fell apart. But I also, I met a pastor on an airplane and ended up starting my own spiritual journey. And one of the first things that I remember, the first thing I said was, God, if you're real, I need you. And that was a big step. And then, because I always thought, God had a special place for cops and I didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But one of the first principles that, I heard was, you got to love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And I was like, how am I supposed to do that? I don't even freaking like myself, right? And so that was one of the first things I started praying for was, God, help me to like myself.
I remember in my disease saying to God when I'm drinking, I got no control over this. I have no control over my life. I have no control over this. And I believe in my heart of hearts. The last day I drank was September 17th, 2011. And on that day, I was so drunk and Xanaxed out because I was doing some pills too at the time. I fell through a glass table at home. And the landlord, in the apartment, the landlord happened to hear the crash, and I ended up in a hospital. And they kept me in a coma for a medically induced coma for a couple of weeks so my brain could kind of relax. So I'm caught. You know what I mean? I'm caught. Work knows, my family knows. I got two doctors. Because I fell through the glass table, I had these MRIs done, and I had a liver, kidney, and heart specialist come up to me and say, if you keep drinking the way you're going, you got 6 months, maybe a year, you're done. And because I fell through that table, and with the MRIs, they did brain scans, and a neurologist, he came up to me later and he said, your brain's half the size it should be. And I said, is it because I'm an alcoholic? He goes, yep. And I said, so if I quit drinking, will it get any better? And he goes, no. And I got mad at him. I said, what do you mean? If I quit drinking, it ain't going to get no better. He said, you keep going like this, you got 6 months, maybe a year, you're done, you're dead. So I got two medical professionals telling me I'm in a ton of trouble. My job knows, my family knows, everybody knows. And it turned out to be a blessing because I've been able to put that behind me for the most part. I can honestly tell you I've not drank in over 9 years since that day I fell through the table. That's the truth, It comes back, and I've got tools to help me. One of my strengths right now, and I hope I'm not sounding like a braggart. That's not what this is about. One of my strengths right now is my ability to tell the truth to myself and to others, because lying's the trigger for me. Once I start lying, everything goes south. And if you've got something going on in your life, man, put your hand up.
Mm-hmm.
You're not alone. Resources are there,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the job is contributing to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it does.
And Leo, in your work, like you now coach people, you do seminars, you do lectures, you are active in running group and whatnot with other addictions people. How prevalent would you say that sexual abuse is among those that you're working with?
Not a psychologist or psychiatrist. Uh, um, Probably 2 out of 10, maybe 3 out of 10
Okay.
is a safe number.
Okay.
There's something there's something called adverse childhood experiences. There was a study done by the Center for Disease Control in 1998 where they asked 14,000 employees of Kaiser Permanente, did these 10 events go on in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And it's verbal assault, physical assault,
Mm-hmm.
emotional assault, from your parents, sexual assault. There's like 10 of them.
Mm-hmm.
My score was 8 out of 10 out of that. And the medicos, the scientists, they say that if you score 4 or more out of 10, chances are really good you're going to be an addict or an alcoholic.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Four
Right.
out of 10,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
if you're a first responder in emergency situations, you've got turmoil going on from your youth, and you got booze and pills on top of that. See, once I was able to take booze and pills out of the equation, that's allowed me, because I trust somebody who's going to help me
Mm-hmm.
to deal with the stuff that's still there. And that's why I say the stuff that's still there, the 95%, that is most of the addictions. Because once you take the substance out,
Mm-hmm.
you got a shot. So if you're drinking or using pills, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you're snorting coke or you're burning crap, whatever your stuff is, once you get the stuff off you and you get to a place where you can trust a therapist to help you deal with your stuff,
Mm-hmm.
your issues,
Mm-hmm.
man, it's gold.
Mm-hmm. What we hear is that, oftentimes it takes a long time with clients to establish that trust, like sometimes years. So, one of the things that you mentioned to me last time when we spoke, which I want to share with our listeners, if you don't mind, it was beautiful what you said about working with other people. You said, when you help heal other people, it helps you to heal, and like crying for others helps you to cry for yourself.
That's really that's a real truth. I volunteer for. Can I mention an organization? Is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
I volunteer for an organization called Sober Nation. When the pandemic happened, there's a group in the States, they're called Sober Nation. When it comes to addiction, they're pretty big, like probably top 5 in North America. So when the pandemic happened, AA meetings, NA meetings, Al-Anon meetings, they're all closed.
Mm-hmm.
And so we needed to have a place to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they did is Sober Nation created Sobriety Engine. Sobriety Engine, I think it's run by maybe 4 people, and the rest of us are volunteers. There's like 5,000 men and women that are members of Sobriety Engine. And it's young people, it's young men and women, it's old men and women, and we're alcoholics and we're addicts. And so I've been blessed to host a virtual recovery room, because this is where we have our meetings now.
Mm-hmm.
Is here. And in there, 15, 20 people come in. You can keep your camera off. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to share. You just listen, whatever.
Nice.
It's a safe place. There's no judgment, because everybody in the room is in addiction. And the volunteers that are hosts, we're all in recovery too. So we get it, man. You're not going to get judged. This is a good place to come and to share. And you know what? You're not alone. I'm not the only one. This isn't me. This isn't just me. There's people I can talk to, and in the rooms, people sometimes will, wherever they are, they'll share, and so if I can cry for you, if I can care enough about you, man, maybe I can care enough about me. How good is that?
Love it. So beautiful. Yeah.
When you hate yourself,
Mm-hmm.
When you hate yourself, that's like, I hate is I had to learn how to unhate myself,
Wow.
you know?
I'm glad you did. Leo, I often say what once was my misery has now become my ministry, right? Because even in my book, I'm clearly not a male survivor of sexual abuse, right? But, when I was a police lady, I got to witness, got to whatever in the line of duty, witness that boys and men were victims too, right? And that, that this was a huge area that was being overlooked. And when I wrote my book, I want to say the psychoeducational stuff kind of came pretty natural to me. As I did my own healing, it was like, yeah, that's the issue. That's the issue. That's the issue, right? So I was able to like put in the book all the things that had helped me along the way.
I see, because I get that, and I know what kind of cop you were, because when it happened, you're like, that one's mine.
Yep.
I got this. I get it.
Yeah.
Takes one to know one. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know as you were telling your stories, right? I'm like, I honestly, I literally thought I was bulletproof, that, that I couldn't lose my career to telling the truth or whatever, because I had put my life on the line for them doing undercover work. I mean, I bought drugs in deep in the reserve where backup couldn't even come, right? I thought, I mean, they called me to do other big jobs, and I just thought it was invincible. So, yeah, so losing my career, lost my identity, lost my, just lost my family, right? And yeah, for me, like diving into this work has given me purpose and meaning and healing, right? So great to be able to help other people.
One door closes, another one opens.
Yeah,
You retire. It doesn't mean you're useless and you're not part of the team anymore.
yeah,
Something else is going to happen. I've never been busier in my life
yeah.
than I am right now. And it's a good busy, man. I like who I am right now.
Love
Love
it.
who I am right now. I love
Nice,
who I am right now, you know?
nice.
And we can still be the hero, it's just you're the hero in a different way.
So important, right? You're the hero's hero now, right? Because you're the one coming forward saying, "Hey guys, we don't have to live like this. We can have better for ourselves," right?
There's a way out.
Yeah, absolutely. Leo, anything else that I've missed that you might want to share? You had mentioned to me on the phone when we spoke that you wanted to share something with me that you've not previously shared with other people. And I said no pressure, but I'm just reminding you because you also told me that you have memory loss issues. So just inviting you to share whatever it was that you were wanting to share.
I have shared this with a few others
Okay.
since we spoke. January 25th, 2017 was a very, very bad day for me. Uh, I was in New Orleans and I had just given a talk the day before at a corrections conference. It was a big conference. I think there was at least 1,000 people in the audience, and it had gone really well. And so I have one day in between me flying home. So I've got a day to be a tourist. And I'd never been to New Orleans before. And so I got up the next day, and about a mile from my hotel for walking was a really nice park and a port of entry, and there's restaurants there. It's real close to the Latin Quarter, and so I went into a place. I think it's called Michelle's, and they're famous for cafe au lait and these beignets, because they make them. And it was loaded with people, and I went in and I had these beignets. They're just made, and they're just all puffs of air. They were just beautiful. And I'm having this cafe au lait, and it was just like very French. Man, it was wonderful, And so I went to another store. It was called the Grocery, and there's a sandwich in New Orleans called the muffalata. And it's an Italian sandwich, and it's like salami and cheeses and mortadella and prosciutto and all these wonderful olives, and they put it in this big thick French bread, and they wrap it up, and you kind of walk it around and carry it around with you like a package. And the longer you let a sandwich sit, the better it tastes. So I'm a tourist, and I go to this park, and I'm just kind of looking around, and there's this little bridge there, and I'm enjoying the day. And I look down, and I see some guy, and he's just peeing on the wall. And I just got really, really sad all of a sudden. And I focused in on this guy, and he kind of staggered over to the grass, and he fell face first, and he just passed out. And I got depressed as anything. I'm like, that's you, man.
Mm-hmm.
All this,
Mm-hmm.
all this is a lie, because this is you right here.
Wow.
And it just, I don't know, a darkness or whatever you want. It was just there. And that turned into making a plan, getting a bottle of Jack Daniels, finding a place. There's 4 parts to a suicide, as I've learned in my little bit. It's ideation, plan, intent, and gesture. I was to intent, all the way to intent. And I had poured a glass of Jack Daniels, and if I drank it, I would not be here right now. I can tell you that honestly. So God has a plan, man. I think he's got a plan with everything. I think he's got a plan with you. I think he's got a plan with me. And the folks in your audience, not that I've done everything or I'm the worst of the worst. I'm not, man. I'm a 4-decade drunk who's been sober 9.5 years, who helps others, who's got a story to share and an ability to love myself and to trust others. That's pretty cool, man.
Love it. Thank you. No, that's awesome. I was noticing when you got up to leave, Leo, that plaque that you have behind your wall. I wonder if you might share that with us.
What?
That's so beautiful, right? That I kind of just thought that might be a nice note to end on, right? Because and to remind you also, right, that
my
you're lost, but now
one of my therapists, one of my addictions coaches, she's really cool. She said, Leo, you got to write a book. You should write a book. And I'm like, I don't have any brain cells left. I don't have enough brain cells left to do that. I said, I can't write a book, but I wrote a cover. So that's the cover to the book and movie I'll never make.
Leo, it takes a team to write a book. You just got to tell your story and let someone else put it together.
I think I'd be willing to do that.
Awesome. Okay, Leo, well, it's been my absolute honor. I thank you so much. I see you smiling, so I hope that means you're doing okay. You're not hiding, right? I thank you for your honesty and just, yeah, again, that, you know what I love about the story that you just shared, and I tell my clients this too, like, I was never suicidal, but I definitely got to the place where I understood why people are, right? So if this can be even hope for one person who's contemplating it, that, 10 years later, look at how much better life can be for, you and I both. We're both living examples of how 10 years later, if you do your work, then life can be so different, right?
There's hope, and life is really good right now. My honor to meet you.
You too, Leo.